Today is Friday, July 24th, 2026. Welcome to This Week in Natural Refrigerants News, where we recap the top stories on naturalrefrigerants.com. This podcast is generated and read by artificial intelligence and may contain errors. We're your hosts, ATNMO, and the articles for today's podcast were organized by naturalrefrigerants.com's managing editor and written by its writers. You can find links to each article in the show notes. So imagine cooling a massive warehouse to minus 19 degrees Fahrenheit, but physically ripping out the booster compressors you usually rely on to do it.
Right, taking away the exact thing that does the heavy lifting.
Exactly. Today we're looking at how subtraction is becoming the new addition in refrigeration. Plus, we'll get into why end users are just completely ignoring EPA delays and why hyperscalers are suddenly building their own heat exchangers.
Yeah, it's a packed one. So starting with the rapid traction of CO2 condensing units, or CDUs, in North America.
Right. The industry roundtable recently highlighted their growth for remodels. But honestly, in those smaller, plug-and-play scenarios, how are CO2 CDUs supposed to compete with the sheer simplicity of an R290 self-contained unit?
Well, in the absolute smallest formats, they just don't.
Yeah.
I mean, R290 absolutely dominates there.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But the mechanical advantage really shifts when you hit that 10 to 15 horsepower mark. At that specific load, CO2 CDUs become highly cost competitive, both to manufacture and to operate.
Okay, but what about the regulatory side? Because the EPA delayed the 150 and 300 GWP limits for new equipment out to 2032, right?
Yeah, they did, which theoretically gives everyone some breathing room.
Mm-hmm.
But facility managers they're completely ignoring the delay.
Wait, really? Just ignoring it?
Totally. They are aggressively dropping F-gases right now because they're just tired of interim solutions. They want to invest their CapEx once, get that permanent regulatory certainty rather than, waiting for the next phase down.
So they're basically choosing upfront engineering over future compliance headaches, which actually transitions perfectly into our next story because we're seeing that exact same mindset simplifying architecture to lock in long-term gain scale up to massive industrial systems.
Right. The Americold project.
Yeah, Americold just built a 542-ton transcritical CO2 warehouse up in New Brunswick, Canada. And Technorefor designed it as a single-stage system.
Which is wild for a system that size.
It really is. Wait, removing the booster compressor completely. I mean, a booster exists specifically to handle that steep temperature lift from low temp to medium temp. If you pull it out, how are they managing those extreme pressure differentials without, burning out the primary compressors?
So they're relying on the mechanical limits of the compressors themselves instead of a complex system architecture. They're using Doran semi-hermetics that are engineered specifically for extreme compression ratios.
Okay, so beefier compressors.
Right. These compressors can actually pull the evaporating temperatures down to minus 19 degrees Fahrenheit in a single stage, all while maintaining a massive safety margin.
Wow, so you eliminate the entire booster rack.
The booster rack, the secondary piping, the complex control algorithms linking them, all of it. And that translates directly to an 18.2% CapEx reduction.
Because you're simply buying, installing, and, maintaining far less hardware.
Exactly. And the crazy part is they didn't sacrifice efficiency to get it. Because the site reclaims 5.5 million BTUs per hour of heat for the facility.
That is a ton of heat reclaim.
It is, which means the combined useful COPS stays at a very competitive 3.41.
Okay, so rethinking architecture to save CapEx in a Canadian warehouse is impressive, but let's escalate the stakes a bit. Ref just replaced an aging R22 setup at Incheon Airport's Cargo Terminal 3 with a 200-kilowatt CO2 system.
Right, critical infrastructure.
Exactly. In an airport cargo terminal, a cooling failure doesn't just mean a warm room. It means spoiled international freight and an absolute logistical nightmare.
Yeah, millions of dollars on the line.
So jumping straight to high-pressure transcritical CO2 instead of a familiar lower-pressure bridging gas, that feels like a massive leap of faith.
It does. But it's a calculated leap to avoid a guaranteed future nightmare. South Korea is strictly enforcing a GWP limit of 150 for new commercial refrigeration by 2030.
Ah, so a bridging gas would just be a Band-Aid?
Right. If they used a bridging gas today, they would be forced to rip this critical infrastructure apart again in just a few years. Plus, the thermodynamics of this specific upgrade are just undeniable.
How so?
Well, simulations actually show a 34.8% energy savings compared to a baseline R507A system.
Almost 35%. That's huge.
Yeah. For a 247 cargo hub, slicing a third off your energy consumption means the CO2 system practically pays for its own premium through operational savings alone.
That's incredible. But if a cargo failure costs millions in spoiled goods, a crashed server farm in today's digital economy costs that per minute. The heat loads in the tech sector are getting astronomical.
Oh, totally. Liquid cooling is basically mandatory now.
Right, so Alfa Laval just released these extra-large brazed plate heat exchangers explicitly engineered for 2.5 megawatt CDUs in liquid-cooled data centers. But the real story isn't just the hardware scale.
No, it's who's designing them.
Exactly. Hyperscalers are suddenly bypassing the traditional OEMs to design the internal flow plates of these heat exchangers themselves. Why take on that intense engineering burden when off-the-shelf components exist?
Well, think of it like a Formula One team meticulously shaving milligrams of weight off a chassis.
Okay, every tiny detail counts.
Exactly. In a 2.5 megawatt environment, hyperscalers have an absolute obsession with PUE, or power usage effectiveness. At that hyperscale level, a heat exchanger is a strategic lever.
So they want total control over the fluid dynamics.
Right. If a data center can redesign the plate geometry to reduce the approach temperature by even a fraction of a degree, it dramatically lowers the pumping and compression power required.
And at that scale, a fraction of a degree is what, thousands of dollars?
More like millions. That microscopic thermodynamic tweak compounds into millions of dollars in saved electricity across a single facility.
That is just wild.
Yeah.
So as you map out your next system upgrade, ask yourself, are you optimizing for the equipment you always used, or are you engineering for the thermodynamic minimum? Because if hyperscalers are proving anything, it's that questioning the default architecture is where the real margin lives. This is AT&MO, and this has been the week in natural refrigerant news.